The rain came down in soft waves that evening, drumming gently against the kitchen window of a small, worn-out house on Sycamore Lane. Inside, Thomas Whitaker stood barefoot on cold linoleum, staring blankly at a half-empty pot of spaghetti. His 10-year-old daughter, Lily, sat at the table, her small shoulders hunched over a coloring book that had seen better days. It had been a long week. Correction, a long year. Thomas was a mechanic by trade, a father by heart, and lately barely holding it all together. After Emily, his wife, had passed suddenly from an undetected heart condition, life had split into two eras, before and after. The before had family breakfasts, laughter over pancakes, and bedtime lullabies sung in harmony. The after was quieter, heavy. It had bills piled in drawers and a daughter who tried too hard to smile for him. "Dinner's ready, sweetheart," Thomas said, placing two chipped bowls on the table. Lily looked up, her eyes clouded but obedient. "Thanks, Dad." As they began eating, there was a faint knock on the door, then another, hesitant, almost apologetic. Thomas exchanged a look with Lilione they'd come to understand silently. He opened the door to a woman, soaked from head to toe, her coat clinging to her like a burden. Her eyes gray and tired met his with cautious hope. "I'm sorry to bother you. I haven't eaten in 2 days. I swear I'm not dangerous. Just cold. She faltered. Thomas blinked. She didn't look like someone used to begging. Her fingers trembled not from fear, but exhaustion. Behind her on the porch was a duffel bag. He could have said no. Should have, maybe. He barely had enough. But something about her reminded him of the look Emily wore in her final weeks, the silent cry of someone trying to hold on. "Come in," he said softly. She introduced herself as Rachel Harper. A widow, she said. Husband died in a construction accident 2 years ago, left with nothing, fell through the cracks, slipped in her car until it was towed away with her last possessions inside. "I was a teacher once," she added later that night, sitting cross-legged on a blanket Thomas gave her in the living room. "5th grade. Funny how quickly everything can vanish." Lily was the first to warm up. She brought Rachel a pair of socks and a mug of cocoa she made herself in the microwave. "You smell like books," Lily said simply. Rachel smiled for the first time that night. Over the weeks, Rachel stayed, at first just for the weekend, then a little longer. She offered to clean, cook, even tutor Lily, who was falling behind in math. Thomas tried to refuse. Pride made him flinch at the thought of receiving help when he couldn't give much in return. But Rachel didn't ask for anything. She folded into their rhythm with a grace that made the house feel less empty. One night, Thomas came home late after staying overtime at the garage to pay off Lily's school shoes. He found the two of them in the living room. Lily was laughing, really laughing as Rachel pretended to read a fairy tale in a pirate voice, complete with a makeshift eye patch. He stood quietly by the doorway, not wanting to disturb the warmth. That night, Lily whispered, "Can she stay forever?" Things improved until they didn't. Rachel's past came knocking one morning in the form of a man in a brown suit with thinning hair and a scowl. "Rachel Harper?" he said at the door. "You're in violation of a court-ordered repayment agreement. You've been found in contempt of a settlement from the estate of your late husband." Thomas watched her shoulders fall. "I lost everything in that settlement. Everything I owned was taken." "Well, that doesn't excuse the unpaid debts. If you're earning under the table, that's still reportable. We'll be investigating this address." The man left a card. Rachel sat on the couch for hours after, quiet, staring at nothing. "I should go," she whispered that night. I won't drag you and Lily into this. I'm used to being alone." Thomas didn't say anything at first. He walked to the window, watched the wind sway the old oak tree in the front yard. "I lost my wife," he said slowly. "It broke something in me. For months I told myself I had to be strong for Lily, but I was only surviving." He turned to her. "You didn't drag us into anything. You gave us back the feeling of home. That matters. We'll figure this out together." They began rebuilding again. Rachel used her teaching skills to start tutoring local kids after school for small payments. Word spread. Soon, she had a little crowd in the living room every other evening, parents grateful she didn't charge much. Thomas's boss, hearing of their struggle, offered Rachel part-time admin work at the garage. "Anyone who helps Tom and that little girl smile again deserves a shot," he said. Then something even more unexpected happened. One of Rachel's old students now, a social worker, saw her name listed in the system. He pulled strings, helped waive penalties, and even found a program for women like Rachel. "You were the teacher who believed in me when no one did," he told her. "Time to return the favor." Months turned into seasons. The house that once echoed with silence was now full of life. Thomas and Rachel began to fall not in the sweeping, cinematic way, but in quiet, meaningful moments. The way she laughed when Thomas dropped sauce on his shirt. The way he brought home lilies because they reminded him of two brave girls. They never labeled it, but it was therein the way they set an extra plate without asking, or waited up for each other on hard nights. One chilly December evening, as the first snow began to fall, Thomas walked into the living room to find Rachel and Lily asleep on the couch. A movie still playing. Rachel's head rested on Lily's shoulder. Lily's small hand clutched Rachel's scarf. Thomas stared for a long time before whispering, "Home." Not all stories end with wedding bells or big victories. Sometimes the happy ending is simply healing. Rachel didn't get back everything she lost, but she found something new, a place where she was wanted. Thomas didn't stop struggling, but now he didn't do it alone. And Lily? She got her smile back and a bedtime story every night. Two voices now instead of one. One spring afternoon, Thomas built a small wooden bench under the oak tree. On it, he carved, "For those who choose kindness even when they're hurting." Sometimes the ones who need help the most are the ones who've learned to ask the least. This story reminds us that even in the middle of our own pain, opening our door sand, our heart scan, lead to something unexpected, something healing, something called family. Disclaimer: this story is a work of fiction or dramatized for entertainment purposes. While it may be inspired by real human emotions and events, all characters, names, and situations are either entirely fictional or modified for storytelling. This content fully complies with YouTube's community guidelines and is intended to inspire, not mislead.